Most people believe honesty makes them respected. But Carl Jung understood something darker about human nature. People do not always ask questions to understand you. Sometimes they ask to measure you, to compare themselves to you, or to quietly decide how much respect you deserve. And the most dangerous part, the question usually sounds harmless. How much do you make? Are you doing well financially? Did life finally improve for you? Simple questions, but hidden behind them is something psychological, classification. Because the moment you answer with numbers, people stop seeing your soul. They start seeing your value. Imagine this, you're sitting with family, coffee on the table, everyone laughing. Then suddenly someone asks, "So, how much are you earning these days?" And in that exact second, your mind splits into two voices. The first voice says, "Just answer, it's normal." But the second voice, deeper voice, whispers something important. Why do they need to know? Carl Jung once said, "People do not have ideas. Ideas have people." And society has one dangerous idea. Your income defines your worth. If you say you earn a lot, envy quietly enters the room. Some people smile. Inside, comparison begins. If you say you earn little, something even more painful happens. People unconsciously lower your status. More pity, less respect, more unwanted advice. And suddenly, your entire existence becomes compressed into a number. This is what psychology calls social reduction. A human being becomes a label. He's successful, she's struggling, they're financially weak. And once that label enters people's minds, rarely leaves. Even if your life changes later, they still remember the first number you gave them. That is why emotionally intelligent people protect certain parts of their lives. Not because they are fake, because they understand human nature. Listen carefully. When someone asks about your money, they are not only asking for information, they are trying to locate your position in the social hierarchy. And there are two types of people in this moment. The first type explains everything. They open the entire door. The second type keeps control. They answer calmly. Alhamdulillah, life is stable, enough to live peacefully. And then, silence, no over-explaining, no emotional reaction, no defense. Because mystery protects dignity. And something fascinating happens psychologically. People lose power over what they cannot fully access. But many people make a fatal mistake. They confuse transparency with wisdom. Carl Jung understood that not every truth belongs in public. Some truths lose value the moment they are exposed to the wrong people. And here is the painful reality nobody teaches you. The world does not always reward honesty. Sometimes studies it, sometimes uses it. That is why silence is not weakness. Sometimes silence is self-respect. And the people who master this move through society differently, calmer, safer, untouchable, because they learned one thing most people never do. Privacy is power. There is another question people ask that sounds warm, kind, even loving, but psychologically is one of the most dangerous questions of all. Because this question does not target your money. It targets your emotional world, your family. How are your children doing? Is your daughter married yet? What does your son do? Is everything okay at home? Simple questions. But Carl Jung understood something terrifying about human beings. The things people ask with a smile can still become weapons inside their minds. And most people never notice the moment their private life slowly becomes public entertainment. Imagine this, you're at a family gathering, someone asks about your son. At first, you answer proudly, "My son is doing well, my daughter studies here." We've been dealing with some family problems lately. And while you think you are simply sharing your life, something else is happening silently inside the minds around you. They begin creating a story about your family because human beings do not remember people accurately. They remember impressions, lebs, narratives. Carl Jung believed that people see others not as they truly are, through projections created inside their own minds. And the moment people hear details about your family, they begin projecting meanings onto your life. That family is successful. That family is struggling. They have problems. They think they are perfect. And once that narrative forms, you lose control over it. That is why exposing your family too much is dangerous, because private pain becomes public discussion. And public discussion always changes shape. Listen carefully. If you speak too proudly about your children, comparison begins. People secretly measure their own lives against yours. Envy grows quietly. Dist appears emotionally. But if you speak too openly about family problems, another darkness appears: pity, judgment, gossip, and the terrifying part, most people do not spread your story because they hate you. They spread it because human beings are addicted to stories, especially stories that are emotional. This is why emotionally intelligent people protect their family deeply, not because they are cold, because they understand something most people learn too late. Once your family becomes social conversation, it no longer belongs only to you. And Carl Jung warned about this indirectly when he spoke about the shadow nature of humanity. People often appear caring while unconsciously feeding curiosity, comparison, or emotional hunger. Now watch carefully what wise people do differently. When someone asks too much about their family, they do not become defensive. They remain calm. Everyone is doing fine. Life keeps everyone busy. Alhamdulillah, things are peaceful. And then they gently move the conversation away. No detailed explanations. No emotional exposure. No unnecessary stories, because mature people understand this. Not every listener deserves access to your private world, and something powerful happens when you stop over-explaining your life. People feel your boundaries, even without words. But many people are afraid of doing this, because they think privacy makes them look rude. No privacy creates respect. Oversharing destroys mystery. And without mystery, people slowly stop valuing your presence emotionally. Here is the painful truth nobody talks about. The more people know about your personal life, easier it becomes for them to discuss it without you. And once people begin discussing your family as a topic, peace disappears. That is why silence is sometimes an act of love. Because protecting your family from unnecessary exposure is emotional intelligence. And the people who understand this protect their loved ones quietly, not publicly, because they know something society forgot. The strongest families are not always the loudest ones. Sometimes, strongest families are the most private. There is a question that sounds caring, soft, almost comforting, but psychologically, it can become one of the most dangerous doors you ever open, because this question does not seek information. It seeks emotional access. Are you okay? You seem different lately. What's wrong with you? You can tell me honestly. And the reason this question is so powerful is because human beings are emotionally designed to trust empathy, especially when they feel lonely. Carl Jung believed that every person carries hidden pain inside them, a shadow they rarely show the world. But modern society has created a dangerous illusion. That vulnerability should be shared with everyone. And this is where many people unknowingly destroy their own emotional power. Imagine this, it's late at night. You've had a difficult day. Your mind feels heavy. Then someone asks softly, "Are you really okay?" And for a moment you feel safe. So you finally open up. You talk about your anxiety, your emptiness, your confusion, the pressure inside your chest nobody else sees. And while speaking, you feel temporary relief. But what you don't realize is this: the moment deep emotions leave your mouth, they leave your control. Because people may listen with empathy today, human memory transforms emotions into identity. Carl Jung understood this deeply. People simplify what they cannot emotionally carry. So instead of remembering your pain as a temporary moment, they begin seeing it as who you are. He's emotionally unstable. She's depressed. That person is mentally weak. And the terrifying part? Most people do not even realize they are doing it, because the human mind naturally creates labels to feel psychologically safe. This is why emotionally intelligent people are extremely careful about who they emotionally expose themselves to, not because they never suffer, but because they understand something dangerous. Not everyone who listens knows how to protect what they hear. Listen carefully. There are 3 reasons people ask about your emotional state. Sometimes it is genuine care. Sometimes they are uncomfortable with your silence. And sometimes they are trying to understand how emotionally controllable you are. Because once someone knows your fears, your loneliness, your emotional wounds, they know where you are weakest. And weak people are easier to influence, easier to manipulate, easier to control emotionally. This is why Carl Jung warned that unconscious people often use emotional knowledge without realizing the damage they cause. Now notice what emotionally powerful people do differently. When someone asks about their emotional state, they do not completely shut down, but they also do not emotionally collapse into exposure. They answer with calm control. I'm learning to manage a few things. Some days are harder than others, but I'm okay. I'm focusing on becoming mentally stronger. Notice something important. These responses reveal maturity without revealing wounds. Because true emotional intelligence is not pretending to be invincible. It is knowing who deserves access to your inner world. But many people confuse pressure with trust. Someone insists, "Come on, you can tell me." And suddenly they begin exposing deeper layers of themselves, their fears, their trauma, their insecurities. But here is the psychological truth most people never learn. Someone asking repeatedly does not automatically earn the right to know you deeply. Pressure is not proof of loyalty. And this is where emotional boundaries become power. The mature response is calm. Honestly, I'm okay. I appreciate your concern. And then you redirect the conversation peacefully, no guilt, no over-explaining, no emotional performance. Because emotionally strong people understand one thing. Not every emotion belongs in public. And Carl Jung believes something humanity keeps forgetting. What you expose during weakness can become the identity people attach to you for years. That is why silence is not emotional repression. Sometimes silence is emotional protection. And the people who understand this move through life with a different kind of strength. Quiet strength. The kind that cannot be easily manipulated because they learned one painful truth about human nature. The world respects emotional control more than emotional exposure. There is a question that sounds innocent, sometimes even respectful, but psychologically is one of the most dangerous questions a person can answer to openly. Because this question does not seek your present. It seeks your past, and the past, when placed in the wrong hands, never returns the same way again. Questions like, what's the worst mistake you ever made? Have you ever failed badly? What's your biggest regret? Tell me something painful from your past. At first, these questions feel harmless. Sometimes they even create emotional closeness. So people begin sharing their failures, their heartbreaks, their darkest moments, the mistakes they survived years ago. And while speaking, they believe they are showing honesty, humility, authenticity. But Carl Jung understood something terrifying about human psychology. Human beings do not process your past as a lesson. They process it as identity. Imagine this. You tell someone about a painful mistake you made years ago. In your mind, it is old, a closed chapter, a lesson that helped you grow. But inside the listener's mind, something else happens automatically. They create a permanent image of you. He failed before. She went through that. That person used to be broken. And even if your life transformed afterward, many people continue seeing the older version of you because the human mind remembers labels more easily than growth. Carl Jung believed that people unconsciously imprison others inside fixed identities, and this is why many people never escape the image society created for them years ago. not because they never changed, because others never updated the story. Listen carefully. When you expose your past carelessly, you unknowingly give people psychological permission to define you. And once people begin defining you through old pain, respect changes, not always openly, but silently, because people trust stable images more than evolving ones. This is why emotionally intelligent people do not turn their past into social entertainment, not because they are ashamed, because they understand the cost of exposure. And here is where most people become emotionally trapped. They confuse emotional storytelling with connection. So they expose old wounds, past failures, personal regrets to people who never truly earned that level of access. But the painful truth is this: once your past leaves your mouth, you no longer control how it lives inside other people's minds. Some people repeat it, some exaggerate it, some silently judge you through it forever. And the terrifying part? Sometimes they do this unconsciously. Because human beings naturally simplify complex people into simple narratives. Now notice what emotionally powerful people do differently. When someone asks deeply about their past, they do not panic. They do not become defensive, but they also do not emotionally expose themselves for validation. They answer calmly. I learned a lot from my past. Some chapters are better left behind. What matters now is who I became. Notice the difference. No lying, no aggression, no emotional oversharing, just controlled access. Because mature people understand something most of society ignores. Your past is not public property. And Carl Jung warned that unresolved people often search for weakness in others to feel safer about themselves. That is why some people are strangely fascinated by your failures. Your pain makes them feel psychologically superior. And this is exactly why boundaries matter. Now here comes the deepest truth of all. Most people think sharing painful stories makes them respected. Sometimes it does temporarily, but long-term respect comes from emotional stability, not emotional exposure. People may admire your suffering for a moment, but they respect your self-control forever. And the people who understand this carry themselves differently, calmer, more mysterious, more respected, because they learn something society never teaches. Not every chapter of your life deserves an audience. At the end of all this was never just about questions. It was about access, because every question people ask you is a doorway into your mind, your emotions, your identity, your private world. And Carl Jung understood something most people spend their entire lives ignoring. Not everyone deserves access to every part of you, but modern society teaches the opposite. Share everything. Be completely open. Tell people how you feel. Expose your story. And because of this, millions of people unknowingly destroy their own peace. They expose their finances, their family, their emotional wounds, their painful past. And then later, they wonder why people judge them differently, why respect changed, why conversations feel strange, why certain people suddenly became distant. But the answer is painful. Too much access destroys mystery. And once mystery disappears, people stop valuing your presence the same way. Carl Jung believed that human beings wear social masks to survive society, not because they are fake. Because complete exposure is psychologically dangerous. Imagine a house with no doors, no curtains, no locks. Everyone can enter, everyone can observe, everyone can judge. Would that house feel safe? No. And your mind works the same way. Boundaries are psychological doors. Without them, people slowly invade your emotional space without permission. This is why emotionally intelligent people move differently through life. They do not explain everything. They do not react emotionally to every question. They do not expose every wound for sympathy. Instead, they observe, they pause. They choose carefully what deserves to remain private. Because they understand one terrifying truth about human nature. The more people know about you, easier it becomes for them to define you. And once people define you, they stop trying to understand you. That is why some of the strongest people you will ever meet speak the least about themselves. Not because they are cold, because they learn through pain that privacy protects peace. Listen carefully now. Silence is not weakness. Silence is selection. It is deciding that your energy, your emotions, your story will not become public property for everyone's curiosity. And the people who master this become difficult to manipulate, difficult to judge, difficult to control emotionally, because they stop giving society unlimited access to their inner world. Carl Jung once said, "Who looks outside dreams? Who looks inside awakens." And awakening means understanding this. Not every question deserves your honesty. Some questions deserve boundaries. Some people deserve distance. And some parts of your soul should remain protected, because in a world where everyone reveals everything, rarest form of power is privacy. And once you understand that, you stop seeking attention. You start protecting peace. And that changes everything.